everybody, and welcome back. That was interesting. Apparently I tripped the wire. I'm here, guys. I tripped the wire, so it disconnected my live stream. But I'm back. We're back, and we're live. And this is going to be a good time, whether we like it or not. Just kidding. I have no idea what that's supposed to mean. Hopefully I can start to get a decent shot. I'm gonna take some things out. This is my first time sort of figuring this all out, so please bear with me. My new motto is it's better to get it done and then worry about getting it done well later. This is for my people out there that have issues with like anxiety and stuff like I do. And it's already like a challenge just to be able to live stream. So you can't, like, when you have issues like that, when you like do feel afraid of like, you know, putting yourself out there, maybe you're not that used to it or whatever, it's still sort of new to you, or it's just not in your nature. I'm kind of learning by trial and error how to be more outgoing, I guess. And let me see if I can use this camera any sharper. Two people. I don't know if it's going to get sharper than that or not. Let's see. That's blurrier. That's sharper. There's this blurrier again. Should have left it where it was. Let's see. I feel like I can make it sharper than that. There. That might be. Let's see. Also, I have some lighting here. I'd like to get as bright as possible. This little beauty disc or whatever it's called, it's like really a great like little daylight hack. It really like helps. And you probably won't be able to see the whole thing, but at least if you can see most of it, then we're somewhere, right? Well, that's what I was saying. Like, doing all of this live streaming stuff and like putting myself out there is not necessarily like natural for me. I have to like kind of push myself to do it, and so that's why I say it's better to just do it than worry about doing it perfectly. Just freaking do it. And I am at the place where I kind of have to be like that, because otherwise I just wouldn't get anything done. So I do want to share my artwork with people. I do want people to enjoy it and to experience it, and the only way for me to do that is to really just put myself out there, and to, even if I have like mistakes along the way, if like I trip the wire and get disconnected, then at least I'm still live streaming. So if you want to steal my sort of somewhat motto and make it your own, then go for it. Basically, worry about getting it done. Worry about getting it done perfectly later, or never. Alright, so another tool that I use is this right here. If you guys can see that. It's basically like a turkey baster, or like but I use it to just refill the water onto my watercolor. Before I use this, I would just go with the brush, you know, with a wet brush, and just trickle the water on there. But how inconvenient is that? Super inconvenient. It takes a lot longer, but with this I just have to push, and I can show you guys. Will it show you? I think it will. And I just take my water and I just go right along, and it makes it so much easier. I don't know, and apparently I'm not the only one that does this either, but I kind of discovered it on my own, and then later found out that I guess other watercolorists have been doing this forever and I'm just late to the game or something. I use duct tape or masking, not duct tape, what am I talking about? I use masking tape. I always say that, like, I have all of my own little innuendos and stuff. That, like, artist tape isn't really for artists. It's horrible. I have it, I don't know why. Probably from, I don't even know what I use it for. Blue tape? I don't like blue tape because it comes up. It comes up really easily. It comes up at the wrong times. Masking tape will come up sometimes, but it doesn't come up all the way. It keeps the edges down. Like the ends will get a little loose sometimes if you've had it sitting for a couple of days like I have. But the myth that it tears the paper is not really true. You just have to be very careful and very like gentle when you're taking it off. You don't want to just rip it off. I like to put it on a slant, so I'll show you guys when I get to that step yet, which we are not at yet, but we will get there. And when we do get there, I will show you what that looks like. Basically, I just do flat color first. So as you can see on this one here, I've already started doing flat color. And also, remember, I'm taking questions, so I have Facebook open. If you guys want to ask me anything about this process, feel free to do that. But I'm using my brush. I wish I could have, I'm going to have to work on having multiple cameras so you guys can see a bit of everything that I'm doing, which would be really nice. But I'm blocking in color just like, I mean, if you work digitally, which I think the majority, especially of younger artists, do now, it's the same thing as like just blocking in your flats with the lasso tool, which is another way that people do it. You might want to use the lasso tool to select the area, and then you fill that in with the lasso. And I don't want to watch myself. Can I not? I'm seeing myself on the camera. Well, maybe that's a good thing, so I can see what's actually happening as it's going on. But it triggered me a second. I'm like, I never kept Facebook open before, and I honestly don't like to see the viewers while I'm live streaming, because it's a good thing I got my nails done yesterday. Even though I smudged this one really bad. They were really jacked up before. You guys see this one? I burnt my finger 2 weeks ago really badly on a cup. My mom got me this beautiful Aries cup. I'm an Aries, obviously. She's an Aries also, so I don't know if she just bought two for herself, which she tends to do sometimes, and give me one later as an afterthought. Anyway, I burnt, it's a beautiful cup, but it has a metal handle, and I apparently cannot remember that it has a metal handle, because this is the second time that I burned myself, and this burn was way worse than the first time. The first time it was my thumb, and it would hurt bad, but I think because it was on like the base of my thumb, that the skin is thicker, so it just felt hot for like hours. But that was it. That was like the only effect. It didn't leave a physical mark. It just like felt hot on that area for a few hours. But this one, obviously this is 2 weeks later, it just killed the skin totally. But oh well. Oh well, that's what happened. So I had to throw the cup away because I didn't want to take the risk of doing it a third time. My fingers can't handle that. They cannot handle that again. That was too much pain. Oh, it was like, it is weird, like my finger like died instantly. It was like a split second of intense pain, and then I felt nothing for like 2 days, and then all of a sudden it started hurting again. While it was healing, it was just like throbbing. I don't know. Maybe that's too much information. Maybe not. I don't know. Let me know. It has nothing to do with comics at all, but welcome to my channel. That's what we do here. We talk about everything. everything and anything. Nothing is really off the table unless it's inappropriate, because I want my son to be able to watch this at some point. Not that he will, but you know, I like to keep everything that I do. That's my rule, and it's a good thing to have like a rule, or like a, what is your threshold for your making art? Do you have like any like guidelines for yourself of what you will and won't make? Like if somebody asks you to animate like Satan takes over the world. So random and bizarre, but I'm just saying, would you sign on to that? If you never thought about that, maybe it's something to think about, like knowing what you will and won't do in your art is kind of a big deal, and you don't want to wait until someone's staring at you with a big check to decide. You want to know in advance, this is what I do, this is what I will not do. And knowing that for me is really helpful. And so for me, like my rule of thumb is, if my son can't watch it, then I won't make it. That's it. If my son can't see it, if I feel ashamed or whatever to show it to my kid, then I'm not going to make it. I want everything that I do to be like, I know now it sounds so touching, but I didn't have any like big, reasoning behind that, but it was just kind of like, that was just like the idea I had for myself. Just like, I want my son to be able to be proud of me and whatever I'm making and whatever I'm doing. Not to saying that he's proud of everything I do, because some of the stuff I make is really silly and goofy, but I never feel like ashamed to show him, and I never feel like I have to hide the things that I make from him, so I don't have like profanity in any of my work. I don't have like any crazy stuff that's wildly inappropriate going on. I have some stuff that's edgy. Definitely in this comic there's edgy stuff, but I feel like all of it has like an intention, and for that reason I feel like proud of it enough that I feel okay with my son being able to see it someday, or like appreciate it whenever. Not that he will, but the option is there for him to maybe possibly appreciate what I do at some point in time. So, do you have any guidelines for yourself of what you'll make, what you won't make? And her eyes, I paint like this really light blue, and I also go over with a little gray, just because she's blind. This is BB. This is BB Ebra, and Ebra is the grandmother of my hero, which there's a word for hero, a professional word that I'm not using right now because I had a brain fart for some reason. But I'm trying to remember. I haven't painted this. I'm picking up from where I started last week, so I'm trying to remember like what colors did I use. This is a good color. But anyway, my protagonist, there you go, that's the actual like, film industry, movie industries, writing term for your hero, which is the protagonist. And of course your antagonist would be your hero's nemesis, the bad guy, aka your villain, whatever. That would be the antagonist. You guys probably already know that kind of stuff, but hey, everyone brain farts, including me. I have not decided what texture I want to throw onto the background in Jaydi's house. I actually have not really fully designed her house yet. That sounds weird, as I'm getting to the end of my first copy. There's not a whole lot of indoor scenes in this issue. There will be more in the future. So I have like the blueprint of the house. I know like where all the rooms are, and where they relate to each other, but I haven't particularly designed the interior to any extent. and I've read more since I finished writing, and like figuring out like the little blueprint about like how much an interior space affects, you know, how your audience perceives your characters. And since I've learned that, I'm thinking more about it. Okay, what do I want to say? What does her house say about her? What does my hero's home say about her? And I'm trying to figure that out. Trying to figure out like what I want to say and what I want her house to say about her particularly. I want to alter the background color, but I'm gonna have to wait until this couch dries a bit. I think in the meantime I'll start painting the other panels. Alright, let's see. I can move over to the side. Alright, so this scene, this is Jaydi's best friend. Her name is Sabrina. Yeah, no, right? Sabrina. It's a very different name than Jaydi, but they're very different people. But in a way, but they relate to each other, and that's why I guess they become best friends somehow. It reminds me of some of the. Sabrina is like a combination of different friends I had in the past, different best friends I had in the past. One, I think it's really to the core based off of. Well, it's based off of multiple, but I'll say like it really does get inspiration from my best friend that I had when I was like we were friends for a long time, but we started being friends in like the 3rd grade, and we were friends up until maybe sophomore year in high school was when we stopped being friends. And I have not spoken to this girl in years. But man, it's an interesting story. I don't want to tell you yet because why we're not friends anymore, because that would spoil the story, at least a fragment of the story that was that happens in this graphic novel, and I don't want to spoil that. Even though it's not the same outcome, it still has like, it definitely, the end of our friendship definitely inspired a few scenes that I don't want to spoil it right now. So that's to come. But anyway, alright, so I don't know, if writing is fun. Writing is fun. You learn things about yourself. You learn things about the relationships that you didn't realize how much they affected you, how they actually did affect you. So it's kind of cool in that sense, because you do kind of get different perspective when you start writing. And I really want to learn how to write more. I had to I didn't know anything about writing when I started this. I had wrote before. I had wrote like short films and really like short stories before this, but I hadn't really not much of any writing education before this. I had a little bit. I had like 2 courses that I'd taken on writing in college. That was it, 2 courses. So I had to learn a bit about screenwriting, so I bought some books. I started watching videos about screenwriting and storytelling and, you know, all of that stuff in combination with like, you know, the inspiration that I had to write the story in the first place, which I mentioned before, and I don't know if that is included in this, but I mentioned that this story was inspired by a dream that I had after I had prayed this prayer, and I just had this dream like the very same night, and it was just so real and vivid, and And I just, I drew the main character like right out of my sleep. I didn't even bother to turn on the lights or anything. I just drew her, and just slowly but surely it started coming into a story, and I just started getting inspiration from different things around me. And I started. I didn't know it was going to be a graphic novel at all at first. That's why it took me so long to get from concept to where I am now, because I didn't know I was making a graphic novel. I just knew there was this character that was going to fit into my life somehow, and she did. And this is the fruit of that in a tree that's still budding. I don't mean to sound all poetic and whatnot, but I don't know, it's kind of like that. It's kind of like a tree of like when you're making something, you're building something, you get this inspiration. It's like a little sprout, and then you just have to keep watering it and soiling it, and waiting, leaving it out in the sunlight and waiting for it to grow, I guess, or creating light for it to grow, I should say, because it doesn't just grow on its own. You kind of have to make it grow. So you have to provide the light. You have to provide the resources that you need to keep building your project. And this is mine. Can you guys see this? Alright. So, the baby that she's holding is not her baby. My character is only between 12 and 13 years old in this story. I originally made her 12 years old, and then I changed it to 13. But I've been just trying to decide whether or not I want to change her back to 12. So those are like little things that I'm still figuring out. Little details that, the audience will probably never know unless I talk about it. It's like, nobody says that, how old, like, Moana is when you watch that movie, but the directors and the writers know that she's 13. She's actually 13. I saw that in a panel talk. You always decide, the writer decides, the director decides the age, even if it's never mentioned in the story. You should know who your character is. It helps you write them as a character. It helps you develop them as a character. The reason why I was trying to decide, because Jaydi's at a phase where it's hard to recall like how mature I was at 12, but I'm thinking like, yeah, maybe she is like late 12, but like she's already gone through puberty already, she's already like trying to figure out if she's interested in boys. She's got a lot on her plate. Her best friend, who is a little bit younger than her, just by like a few months, is definitely interested in boys, like highly so. But she's still trying to figure out, Jaydi's still trying to figure out whether or not she's interested. And I don't know, those are little fun things that I guess you can figure out while you're writing your story. Does my character, are they interested in the opposite sex, or are they interested in dating? Are they at the age where that makes sense or not? And if they are, to what degree are they interested? It's all stuff that you think about when you're writing a big story. I don't know, I think I initially made her 12 because I didn't want her to, I still wanted her to be like, there's an innocence about not hitting your teen years yet. There's just an innocence about that, not quite being a teenager, but almost there. So yeah. I think when the story starts out, she's 12, and by the end of the story she's 13. Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. I'm glad that I figured it out right while we're talking. Because this is one of the things, like, there's so many little things, little details in the back of my mind about this story that, like, I just kind of wait till I'm at it to get to it, because there's so many different details. I can't think about all of them at the same time. But I'm glad that I can, like, share my thoughts while I'm here. I'm gonna be here every week for basically every week. I do plan to travel for 1 week this month and for 1 week next month. But other than that, I'm gonna be a regular on here weekly. Tuesdays is gonna be my comic day, and Mondays is gonna be different things. Right now, it's studying the masters. After that, I have a plan to bring to life some of my figure drawings, and I'll have to put a big postie on my computer, which I think I'll do right now, so I don't forget that nude figure drawings are not allowed on Facebook Live. I got in trouble for that before. I do not want that to happen again, because I really appreciate having this platform to talk to you guys on, and I don't want to lose it. Okay. But all of this is going to be in my book. You guys can see it pretty well. But this is her baby sister, not her child. Like we just established, Jaydi's 12. She's not having babies yet. She's still quite a baby herself. She's 12 years old, and this is her baby sister, who she is the primary caretaker for right now at this time. And her baby sister's name is Jaydi. I love that name, Jaydi. It's actually an African name, and it means root. And I really liked that. Because she's like the little root of the future. Like the little seedling of the next generation of their family. Is kind of how I see her. So that's one thing to take into consideration too, is like, what do you want your characters to say? Not like directly, because this character doesn't even speak yet, but what do you want them to say, like indirectly, like with their name or with their clothes and things like that. She can say words, but she doesn't speak full sentences yet. She's about a year and a half. Months old. Okay, still moving and making our way through. I know that, like, deciding to do this comic in watercolor, I know it's an extra step, but it was one that I made. It actually took me more time, because I initially had like the inspiration, I want to say, to do it in watercolor, and then like I kind of chickened out. I was like, God, that's gonna be so much work. It's gonna like take so much longer, or like, but, and so I did like about 5 panels, or not 5 panels, 5 spreads, like 2-page spreads, and watercolor, and then I changed my mind, decided to do it in digital, and then I did the whole thing digital, and then not only did I not like it, I also realized that I don't enjoy it as much, like painting in watercolor for me is so peaceful, and it's so much more pleasant for me. I don't feel like I'm working. I just feel like I'm just in the zone when I'm painting watercolor. So in the end, it's a lot more peaceful. And actually, you know, when it got down to me doing all the, you know, just the flat color, fine, it was pretty quickly to do a lot of the flat colors. Well, actually not even really. It took a lot longer than I thought it was going to take. But after doing all the flat color, like going back and doing all the rendering digitally, it just didn't make sense for me, because it just wasn't, I wasn't getting the look that I wanted for this particular series. And I'm not saying that every comic I ever make is going to be watercolor, because it won't, because I've already done like different like short comics and stuff in digitally, but for this particular series it didn't make sense. It just wasn't the right medium for it. So I decided to just scrap the digital that I've done so far. I keep all my original sketches, which are a combination of both traditional and digital, because I do all the thumbnails in ink in a sketchbook, and then I clean them up in the iPad. So those are digital and traditional, and then going over these with the watercolor, it just makes more sense for what this is and for what it means to me. It feels more personal for me to do it in watercolor. It feels like it has like my own touch on it. It feels like it has a little bit more of the personality that I want to bring to it. So it just all in all around, it just made way more sense for me to do this project this way. I feel like I'm talking a whole lot. Yesterday I was pretty quiet. Today I can't shut up. I tell you, I go back and forth. I have my days where like I just can do it and I just like non-stop, and then I just have the days where I'm just going a little bit slower, a little more mellow, a little bit more, you know, in a different zone, I guess. And now I'm just like, I feel like hopefully I'm not talking your ear off too much, but I mean, in a way, this kind of is a talk show, so I should be talking to you because I'm the only one here. Alright, so it is what it is, guys. Alright, I'm gonna try to have to remember to keep moving it around. I just don't want to disconnect my camera again, because that was what took it off in the first place, so I don't want to disconnect my camera. Oy vey. That's what I say when I'm going through stuff. Going through my feels. Or something. Something's going on. That's what my husband says whenever I say oy vey. I think I just said it because I'm kind of out of breath from talking. It could just be that. I could just be out of breath from talking too much. But you see, in the meantime, we've been doing this, and now my other page, the other side of this spread, should be mostly dry by now. But I'm gonna keep going until I feel like I'm satisfied with where this page is at for the moment. Okay. Just want to fill in all the big gaping white spaces that I feel like don't need to be in white, I guess. Little Hedy is crying her tail off. But she won't be for that long. She falls asleep with Jaydi's voice, which is sweet. And what else are we doing here? I'm gonna rinse out the brush every so often. Just every time you change colors, every time you do something a little different. We gotta rinse out that brush. Let's see. I still haven't decided yet whether I want to make the background of Jaydi's eyes like a pale purple or pale blue. Most of the characters are going to be pale blue, but I'm thinking to make Jaydi's a little bit different. I did like this VizDev art of her brother, Bendelli, who is probably my favorite character in the book. Basically, the story evolves around him. He's great. He's so full of energy. Their relationship, even though they're brother and sister, it's very reminiscent to me of my relationship with my son. I had him when I was pretty young. I was 21 years old, and in a sense, like, even though I'm very much his mom, like very much, I set the roles, I am the disciplinarian, I'm all of that, I am his provider and all of those things. But also, just because I am like already so immature my own self, I joke with him about everything. We still make fart jokes even though he's about to be 16. I still feel like, in the same way, like in another life we could have been brother and sister. Like he could have been my little brother, but he's my son, and that's so much more special. Brothers are special too. I never had like a brother relationship, but I can imagine what it would be like to have a little brother because of my son. So he was definitely a big inspiration for me in creating the character Bendelli. Even though he's not Bendelli at all, like he's a different person, but it's just elements of his personality that I threw in there. It's weird how you can make somebody totally different but still be inspired by somebody else. Oops. I didn't want to mess up that color there. I like this like peachy color that I use for, I'm sorry, I forgot to move the camera. I'm using like this peachy color for the Jaydi's blush and her lipstick. Well, it's not even lipstick, it's just her lip color, because she doesn't wear makeup, but I still give her like this tint of color on her lips and on her cheeks. It's because I like it. Because I like it a lot. And the reason why I bought the Copic markers is because all of these clothes that I have, all these people wearing, Jaydi, her grandma, and I need to make a list of all of the different people I'm going to be adding textures to. I'm going to be adding kanga patterns onto their clothes. So this, what she's wearing right here, it's not just a wraparound, and it's not going to be just solid. The purple thing that she has, that's actually going to be her kanga. And a kanga is like an African pattern that's popular in East Africa, which is where my story is based. If you've never heard of it, you might have heard of kente cloth, which is popular on the east coast of Africa in countries like Nigeria and Ghana. But kanga is more popular in Kenya and Tanzania, which is more of the area where my story is based off of. So we're gonna keep moving. I'm gonna have to yawn. Blah, 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 blah. Sorry. I think it's because I'm just talking so fast. I'm not trying to be like motor mouth, but I just want to like keep on expressing the thoughts that I'm having going on in my mind to you so that you can kind of get this. Okay, it takes about 5 hours to do a spread in watercolor. That's just the paint. how long does it take to do the ink? I don't know yet. But doing the initial cleanup lines, that took a while too. That took a minimum of 30 minutes each panel. So each panel I was spending at least 30 minutes, and no, the smaller ones don't take less time, they take more time because the details are smaller, it just takes longer. So the smaller panels end up taking longer than the big panels. But yeah, 30 minutes minimum, 30 to 45 minutes is about what it took. So that's how long I was taking to do the cleanup. That was, you know, making all these clean lines available so I had something to paint in the first place. And let's see, so 30 minutes times, let's see, that's 1 hour, 2 hours, a whole full page. That one is also take a long too. So let me see, let's just say it's like 3 hours to do a cleanup, 5 hours to do the watercolor, and then so that's 8 hours for one spread so far. And we also have to do, like, thinking about adding, we have to add effects, we have to add the text, the type. That is going to take at least another 2 hours, so that's minimum 10 hours a spread is what I'm spending here. That is a little bit above average. I think I've heard other people say it takes 4 to 6 hours to do a spread for them. More along the lines of 6 hours. So it's a little bit close to twice as long, depending on the style that someone's doing. I'm not the only person though, and definitely I'm not the most intricate, because there are some comic artists who do like pointillism. Some comic, that's like when you make a shape just using just tiny dots all over. That would take even longer. And there's other comic artists. There's lots of comic artists. So I'm not the fanciest one out there by far. I'm taking 10 hours, but some people are probably taking 12, 16, 20 hours a panel, spread, not a panel. That is crazy. You're doing an oil painting each panel, and maybe, but some people are, I'm sure, are taking probably 16 to 20 hours a spread. It depending on how intricate their comic is, their graphic novel is, or what they're doing, what they're trying to do, what they're trying to accomplish. It really depends. I think I selected the wrong color that I didn't want. That's not the color I want. Okay. It's a really good idea to keep a color journal when you're doing stuff like this. I keep a color journal, and it's always close to me in my desk where I'm working. It has all the colors, how they look on paper, so that way you'll know not just how they look while they're in the palette, but how they actually look on paper. So I have like all my colors, name them, number them. That's important. So you can go ahead and say, okay, well, my backgrounds are color 47 or 57, or like my shadows are color 57 and my floor is color 50. So that way it helps you to keep track of your colors. This is a really important step. It takes a little bit of time, but like in perspective, it's really not that long when you think about how long it takes to make a comic. I did this one, but I had to redo it because I didn't number it or name it, and I didn't do it in order. So I did it over here, and here I numbered them, named them, I put them in order. I keep them in the same order on the page that they're in on the palette, so it's I don't have to think twice about it. I know, like, okay, this one is the fourth one over on the top row, so I know, like, it makes it a lot easier when you're going back and you're picking colors. It just is a huge time saver, and you already know it's taking long enough. We don't need to add like more time to this process. It already takes 10 hours a spread. Why are we gonna make it take longer? So if 10 hours a spread on average, and doesn't even include, oh my gosh, doing the thumbnails is a whole other process too. That takes a long time as well. But even still, let's just say, okay, 10 hours about to do a spread, and my first issue is 37 spreads, so that's about 370 hours. It's a lot of hours. Just, for the first issue, that doesn't count writing, how long it took and how many times I rewrote this script and the scripts that I read in study for this script, and all of the research and all of the classes and the thesis that I wrote about colonization. Doesn't include any of that. This is just one aspect, and it's 37 hours. So before you think about making a comic, just know you better care about that comic. You better care about the subject matter. If you don't care about it, you're not going to spend 6 months, let alone 6 years, trying to figure it out. So then, if I was going to give any advice for somebody, you want to make a comic, you want to make an animation, you want to make a book, you better really care about that dang story. Even if you don't have really the story yet, if you have the concept, that you're going with, you better care a lot about it, or you are not going to have the will and the strength to get through it, because it's hard even when you do care. Like, I care so much about this story, but even still, sometimes it's hard to come to the table and sit down and do it. I do it, but sometimes it takes a couple days. Sometimes I am in a funk or whatever, and it takes me a little bit longer to get back into the groove, or something happens in my life. What are you going to do when you have people in your life get sick or die? 6 years is a long time. Stuff happens. What happens when you have major life changes and you still have to go back to your comic? Think about that. Are you going to have enough desire to go back, and finish when stuff happens in your life? Because it will. I am giving my testimony right now. Stuff will happen in your life, and it will be hard, and you're still going to have to get the motivation and the inspiration to say, I'm going to finish my comic. Oh, it's crazy. You have no idea how much stuff happens in the spread of a couple years until you really realize, wow, a lot has happened. I've moved, a few times in that, I've, gone through different personal situations. I've gone through life changes. I've gone through, all kinds of stuff. But still, it's alright, remember your comic. Don't forget, you still have a comic to finish. You still have a story to finish that you don't even know is a comic yet. You still have a story to write, a screenplay to write. And that's not to discourage you, but just to kind of give you a wake-up call if you're thinking about making something really silly that you don't even care about. Save you the time of having a bunch of unfinished projects, just sitting on your hard drive, which I have a few of, that I didn't care enough about to finish. So if you're going to go ahead and make a decision to really make a graphic novel that you want it to be the best that it can be, make sure that you care about that project enough to see it through, even if it takes way longer than your deadline. Which is me. I'm raising my hand. I thought I was going to finish this a long time ago. I started really finalizing it last January, and then my whole life got flipped upside down in more ways than one, and I realized a lot of things. I realized I have other things that are more important right now that I need to tend to. That was one. And then I had realized, okay, well, I don't really want this to be digital anymore. I have have to remake it into watercolor. So that was another one. So personal stuff that was going on and everything else. So I mean, it's just things to consider, because it's going to take a long time to get all this bad boy stuff done. So I just want to give you that little heads up. Hopefully it helps. Definitely don't want to discourage you. I want to give you like that, you know. Anyway, what else can we discuss during this time that we have? I don't think I got any questions yet, did I? Nope, I surely did not. Let me go back to my page. Okay. Let's see. There's going to be a lot of this that's going to be in shadow. So, I'm thinking about that. Alright, let's see. Just thinking if there's anything that I can kind of touch on before I move on to my other side of my panel to pick up where we left BB. I love that BB. BB means grandma. That's grandma in Swahili. Their language in this story is Swahili. I have a lot of scenes that are Swahili that are translated. So it will have any of the scenes that are in Swahili are translated. But not only that, not all of them scenes are. Some of them are just assumed Swahili, so it'll be in English or whatever language copy of the book that you get. But it's just like assumed Swahili, which I think that people get, you know, the assumed language that they're speaking. And my friend over here, Sabrina, wears purple lipstick. She's that kind of girl. She wears purple lipstick. Even though she's a young girl, she's a little bit, what some might say, fast. But don't judge her too quickly, because she does have a backstory that is pretty interesting and unique. But you'll just have to read to find out what that is. Her little backstory is pretty cool though. Not cool. Oh god, no. What did I mean to say? What I'm trying to say is I like the kind of unexpectedness of like some of the different character backgrounds. But no, her background is not cool at all. It's actually quite traumatic and horrible. I don't know where I got that from. I was thinking one thing and saying a totally other thing, which is not recommended. And like say what I'm actually thinking, not like the opposite. Alright, I think we're good on this side for now until this dries a little bit, and then we'll come back to it. In the meantime, we'll go back to the other side. Back to BB. And I'm going to put a second coat on some of these things. I put a second coat on her skin. I picked this really like ash color for her skin. It's like a real ash brown. Not to be confused with ashy brown, those of you who are not mature. But it's an ash brown color. I say that because it has like a gray tint to it. But I like it because it's really lifeless. I know it sounds a little bit odd, but I think that BB is a huge symbol in the story. She's really a symbolic character. She's a metaphor for so many things in life. I love her. I think she's a great character. She's a great metaphor, and I can't wait for you guys to meet her. She's blind and she has dementia, but she's still alive. So that means she's got a purpose for something. She's being used for something in her life. So I'm excited to introduce her to you. But I'm going to go ahead and add that second layer of color to her skin. It looked like someone just tuned in. I am taking questions while I'm doing this, making the graphic novel series. So if you guys have questions, if you want to know anything about the process, if you're curious about whatever, just let me know and I will be answering whatever you guys have. And just so you guys know, this will also be available on YouTube, and it's going to be on the page if you guys are interested in. Missed any part of it, we're coming to the end of it now, but if you guys missed the beginning, want to see, I also did like a studying the masters yesterday, and I'm going to be doing another one of those next week, Monday. These are going to be at 10 o'clock Pacific time. So I'm just adding, I'm using watercolor here. This is all watercolor paint. I'm just putting in like flat color right now, but after that I'm gonna go ahead and add like the light and shadow and all that stuff, bring it into Photoshop and touch up like details after the inking. So like if I have special effects, things like that, I want to do in Photoshop. Maybe even adding like different tints to the color, different like changing like the tone. Like this one is a little bit bright, I might make it a little bit, feel a little bit more orange. I think I'm leaning more, and I'll probably add that actually. That sounds like a good idea. I want it to be a little bit more orange in this background. So I think that I can do right now that I think of it. And I'm gonna pick an orange from my, let's see, I'm gonna pick one from my palette, and I'll start adding some of that color in there. So that is color number 9. I love that just talking out loud is giving me ideas. I didn't think of it until now. I didn't realize till now that this room is feeling way brighter than I want it to feel, which is not giving off the vibe of this character that I want it to. Even if it's not necessarily the actual color of the room, it's like a particular feeling that I want when you, at each scene when you see this character, much less when it's like a full half a spread, you know. It's a big piece of this page. It's a full page, you know, and I want it to, I don't want it to detract from, I guess, the energy of this character that I want her to have whenever you see her, which might be a little bit like uneasiness. I want you to feel not afraid, but just like a little bit uncomfortable. Like if you've ever been around a relative and you know that they're dying, you know that they're sick. I kind of want you to have that feeling, just like almost like a helpless feeling, not feeling sorry for her, but just like this is part of life, you know. And if we're lucky enough, eventually, you know, we'll get there too. It's kind of 360, or not 360, 180, is that what you call it? 360 would be like you're young again, which I don't know, maybe we are in some point or another. I will probably go back again after this dries. With watercolor, you have to do everything like one layer at a time and let it dry, and then you go back and you add another. So like one of the hacks for that is I have this little fan that I like to keep next to me. I also keep a dryer, blow dryer. So whenever you want to like kind of get things moving, like it's not, you know, you can just go ahead and blow dry it or use a fan. I got a fan on it right now. And in the meantime, while that background is drying, I think I'll go back to my other side of my spray. Let's see. I'll add some more of the colors that we need here. Some of these can use a second pass. They're a little bit washed out. I want it to be pretty bright, even though it's not going to be, this is not, I'm still not at the final color stage. Still be a couple more stages, but I just want to make this way more vibrant, so I'm going to give it a couple more passes with this. Give her some more color. Watercolor is so just like translucent, I guess, that if you want it to be pretty bright and anything other than pastel, you have to do a few coats of it. Or you can just use a very saturated, what it's called. When you're using the dry palette, you have to do several coats, I should say. So if I'm using that dry palette over there, I need to do several coats. But if I'm using these that are from the tube and I don't add that much water to it, then it can be pretty thick. You don't need more than one coat. But that will be a whole other look than what I'm doing right now. And I want it to be fairly smooth, so I'm not going to do that. I really like to work lightly or delicately. So I'd rather, for me personally, do a couple of layers, do a couple of passes, rather than try and just hammer it out at once. And trying to find the color I was using for Sabrina's skirt over here. Well, her skirt should be like a deep green color. It's just school uniform. Otherwise, she would not be cut dead dressed like this. She's just that type of character. She would not be caught dead like that. And, you know, the type of school where she goes, it's not like, you know, schools out here where you can just roll your skirt up. No. Not this school. You'll get whacked with a ruler a few times. Which, I don't know if you've ever been in a school like that, but I have. I have. Actually, my kindergarten was like that. I mean, I don't think I got whacked in kindergarten, but I did get whacked at that school. I don't think they actually whacked me until 1st or 2nd grade. Which isn't a whole lot better. But yeah, oh man, that was this is in Brooklyn, New York. Very highly Caribbean neighborhood, very highly Caribbean school, and the culture of the school was very much like of the Caribbean, which in a lot of ways is similar to many different countries in Africa and communities. Of course, they are different. They have a different culture, but there's just some similarities with the way, especially like things that I see, like child upbringing, stuff like that. Yeah, it's very closely related, so it just reminds me of that. It's just funny now that I think of it. Getting whacked on the hand with a ruler was not fun. Not at all. It was horrible. Really horrible. Alright, we're getting to 12 o'clock. I'm going to have to cut it soon. So, I know that sucks, right? It sucks. But, such is life. I guess I should do a little closeout, show you my face, not that you want to see it, but whatever. Whatever, right? But I just wanted to, you know, talk to you face to face a bit and just let you know that I'm going to be back here recording these every week.
for the next couple of weeks. I will be out for 1 week in May and 1 week in June. I know that I have to do a couple of things out of state, but it was fun recording with you. And remember, like, the playback is going to be here on Facebook and also on YouTube. And I will be doing Studying the Masters as well. That one's going to be on Mondays. But if you are in the Los Angeles area, remember that my meetup group, Cartoon Arts Center of Los Angeles, is officially reopened. So you can go on Meetup. We're doing our first zoo drawing session tomorrow. So if you want to join us from 10:15 to 12, go ahead and sign up. And thank you so much for watching, guys. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day, rest of your afternoon, and be grateful, live balanced, and be yourself. I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye-bye. I have to go over here to shut it off.